agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Recording in progress.
For which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim, when you're ready, to get the oath of office.
Mr. Mayor, Nick Vivian, the city attorney, is going to conduct the oath of office to each of you.
Oh, he's on, okay. Do we need to stand or?
Nick, are you ready?
Oh, Kim, do they stand when they're giving the oath?
No.
No need to stand, no Bibles?
No Bibles.
Nick, are you ready for the oath of office?
I am.
Okay. Give them directions, please.
Fantastic. Why don't we start with Mayor-elect GIEFER? If you could stand and raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Jeff GIEFER,
I, Jeff GIEFER,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Minnesota,
and of the state of Minnesota,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of mayor
and will faithfully discharge the duties of office of mayor
and of the city of, of the city of Grant
of the city of Grant
in the county of Washington
in the county of Washington
and the state of Minnesota
in the state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and abilities.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, we'll now move to Lindsay. If you would please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Lindsay Cremona,
I, Lindsay Cremona,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and of the state of Minnesota,
of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council member
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council member
of the city of Grant
of the city of Grant
in the county of Washington
in the county of Washington
and the state of Minnesota
and the state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Then if you would stand and raise your right hand
Yes, sir.
and repeat after me. I, Ben CORNETT,
I, Ben CORNETT,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and of the state of Minnesota,
of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council member
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council member
of the city of Grant
of the city of Grant
in the county of Washington
in the county of Washington
and the state of Minnesota
in the state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Next on the agenda is a presentation of a plaque to Mayor Huber for his service. Thank you. On behalf of myself and the citizens of Grant, I'd like to thank you for your 17 years of service. You displayed strong leadership at times when we needed, and you'll leave some big shoes to fill. Wish you best luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best luck as well.
Thank you.
And the only advice I would leave you with is leave your emotions at home. Come here and think the problems through, do what's best for the citizens, and I have great faith in all of you. Thank you.
Mayor GIEFER, I do have something additional for
Oh, what would that be?
Jeff Huber.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Jeff, we go back about 18 years
Long time.
now.
Yeah, long time.
And I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure to work with you, on behalf of myself and all of staff. Enjoyed very much working with you. You will be missed. I know that you wanted a cake to go with your plaque,
Kinda.
so I was able to nab you a piece of cake, cause it's
Oh.
not in the city budget, we don't do that.
This is
This
private
is-
cake?
This is from Mayor Barb Parents, from Willerny,
Okay.
her going away party.
Oh, good.
So there you have some cake, which was about 10 days ago, okay?
This means a lot to me, Kim.
Okay.
I was gonna give it to the kids and now I'm afraid
No,
to,
no,
okay?
that's for you.
Not giving it to the kids. Cheers. Thank you so much. And I will tell you, working with the staff over the last 18 years has been an extreme pleasure. Maybe just one more piece of advice, listen to the staff, because they know a lot more than we do, especially together as a team, and they're gonna give you good advice. Listen to them, they'll guide you through the hardest times they have up there, and just been a real pleasure. Tell those guys back there on that screen, it's been a pleasure too.
I think they heard you.
You hear me? All right, thanks, guys.
I want some of your cake.
You can have the cake.
I misspoke, I said 17 years, accept my apologies, I don't want
Yeah.
to short you a year.
Yeah, you don't wanna short me my ear. Okay, well, thank you. I've been very pleased to be here. I think we left Grant in good shape, and I know you guys are gonna do well. I just have a ton of confidence in you. As a unified team, you're gonna be great. Okay, thank you. Carry on.
All right, next on the agenda, approval of the regular agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Second?
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rod,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye. Next on the agenda, approval of the consent agenda. We've all had a chance to review the consent agenda. Assuming there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Okay,
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rod,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
aye. Next on the agenda, staff agenda items. City engineer Brad Reifsteck has no action items. I don't think he's with us. Then our city planner Jennifer Swanson, who is with us online. Jennifer, could you please walk us through the variance request we have before us tonight?
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So before us this evening, we have a request for a variance from a yard setback, the side yard setback, at the property located at 7076 Lone Oak Trail North. For those of you that have been with us for a while and those that are newcomers, this is located in the new White Oak Savannah subdivision, which is on kind of the east side of town. So we'll walk through exactly what this request is for and sort of how it came to be. The recent platting of the property and the lot is actually part of the basis for why the variance is being sought this evening. So I do believe the applicant or their representative is in the audience this evening. They are doing business as White Oak Savannah, but I believe Dave Washburn may be in attendance and could answer any questions that you may have. I see heads shaking, so he is there. The property is approximately 7 acres. It is actually the corner lot. It is on the north side of Lone Oak Trail, which is the new roadway that was constructed as part of the subdivision when it was approved back in 2018. So we have noticed a public hearing for this evening. To my knowledge, we have not received any questions at this time with respect to the application. And I just realized I don't think I actually shared my screen, so I'm going to do that now. Because we will need the graphic in just one moment. So, all right, so with that, it looks like we are up and running. So this evening, the developer and the owner is who's making the request this evening. So the lot is actually vacant. They are attempting to sell the lot. Obviously, it was platted as part of that process back in 2018. The issue arose actually after the final plat process was basically concluded at the city back in 2018. And once the city adopted or approved that final plat, after the fact, actually Washington County Transportation Department came back and said that the final plat could not be recorded, and they wouldn't finish it without some additional right-of-way abutting the westerly property line of the subject lot. So when that occurred and when that additional right-of-way was taken, it had the effect of further constraining the buildable area on this lot, which you will see in just a moment on the graphic. So it essentially had the effect of creating a buildable area that was reduced from approximately 60 feet to about 40 feet, which significantly constrained how a lot, or how a home, excuse me, could be sited within the buildable area, given some of the constraints of that lot. So the developer at the time could have come back to us and requested some adjustments to the plat, but in the interest of time, they needed to get going. So they figured they'd give it a shot the way that it was platted, with the easements as they were, with the additional right-of-way. They have been unable and unsuccessful to find someone who would construct a custom home on the property, given how constrained that buildable area became after that additional right-of-way was taken. So obviously they are proposing that if this variance is granted, that it would be constructed and developed with a single-family residential property, very similar to the other homes that you see going up in that subdivision. So the intent is obviously to develop it in a similar fashion. When we take a look at our variances, we have specific criteria that we have to look at. The practical difficulty of following the ordinance is what comes into play when we do our assessment. There are a few separate criteria that we take a look at with respect to whether or not it meets those criteria for that request. So you'll see here that we've got the plight of the landowner has to be due to physical conditions that are unique to the land or the structure or the building that is involved in the subject request, and that if they tried to follow the ordinance to the letter of the law, they would not be able to actually use the property for a similar use in the same zoning district. So in this case, of course, we're talking about a single family residential structure. We also have to look at whether the unique conditions of the site are caused by the owner. So did they do something that created this potential constraint on the property? Or was this something that was somewhat out of their control with respect to natural physical characteristics of the property? And economic considerations alone cannot be the basis. Note that it doesn't say that economic considerations cannot be part of the basis, it's just they cannot be the only reason for that request. So in this particular case, we also have a situation where because this property was recently platted as part of the White Oak subdivision, that they also need to be able to comply with the terms of the development agreement and the other conditions of the final plat as they were approved back in 2018. So even if we give this variance tonight and it's approved, they will still be subject to all of those conditions that were in the development agreement. They're still going to have to follow all the requirements with respect to the ponding, stormwater, on-site stormwater control, et cetera. So it doesn't negate any of that. That development agreement still remains in play. So when we take a look at the property, at the existing conditions, there are 2 wetland areas on this particular lot. There's also a white oak savanna area, which is obviously one of the desirable natural characteristics of the property, make it a very lovely lot. But it also has the effect, when you look at the proper setbacks and those natural features of really constraining the buildable area on the subject property to really being on that what would be the southwest corner of the lot. And so that obviously is also abutting the CASA 17 or the Lake Elmo Avenue right-of-way. That right-of-way, when it shifted 25 feet, had a pretty significant impact on what that buildable area looks like. The access in the buildable area were approved through the final plat and preliminary plat process. It was identified on that southwest corner. So all of those pieces remain valid and applicable in terms of our analysis. Really comes down to that additional right-of-way further constraining where an appropriate single-family home could be developed on the property. So if you look at this graphic, hopefully you can see it. It's a little bit small, but the blue area, if you look at the blue dotted surrounding area, that is the area that was the buildable area that was approved and identified as part of the preliminary plat and the final plat process when it came through the city. And so when you look at that, it's still a rather constrained area in terms of what was buildable. But obviously, if we go to our next graphic, it got even smaller when the additional right-of-way was taken. So the additional right-of-way that was after the fact was the black dotted area on this graphic. So what then remains is essentially the yellow area. The developer, as I said, has worked with a couple potential buyers. When they looked at this, it was just incredibly difficult to make everything fit within that pink area and build a home that was comparable to what is being developed in the White Oak Savannah subdivision on the other lots. And so from that perspective, that yellow area did become very constrained. Now, for those of you that are new with us, and obviously you're residents of the community, so you understand, in addition to the single family house, we also have to have appropriate area that's going to fit the primary and the secondary septic systems, or drain fields, excuse me. And so from that perspective, it gets further constrained in what can actually fit within that area. So to give you a sense of what the applicant is proposing and what the variance would do, you can see from this rendering that there's actually the main portion of the structure, so the principal portion of the structure, as I would call it, is actually meeting all of the required setbacks. The portion that would encroach within that setback area, that additional area, is actually noted. You can see it in the dark brown area. That is basically an accessory portion of the building or the principal structure. So that's I think they're calling it a shop or a garage, whatever it is. That is the portion that would encroach within to that setback area. The principal structure itself would actually comply with all of our ordinance requirements. So the variance that's being requested this evening is approximately 25 feet. It does correlate and match with it precisely and exactly what was approved initially by the city in the preliminary and final plat process. So the location doesn't really change. The buildable area from the city's perspective actually doesn't change at all. It just has the effect of requiring the variance in this case because of that after the fact right-of-way request. Or demand, not a request, from Washington County once the final plat had already come through the city. And so from that perspective, there's not a significant change from what we see or what we would have seen because it's consistent with what we thought was being approved as part of that preliminary and final plat process. So as I said, we look at 3 separate criteria. The analysis basically walks through the fact that is this a reasonable use and is what they're requesting in terms of the variance reasonable. Oftentimes we look at is the variance minimized to the extent possible. In this case, staff does believe this is reasonable. This is what, when we went through the preliminary and final plat process, we do things like make sure that there's adequate buildable area to site structures that are comparable in size and value, et cetera. To the other parts of the subdivision. In this case, what they're requesting is a fairly modest home actually compared to what's going on in the remainder of the subdivision. And so from that perspective, it certainly seems reasonable for this particular request. The plight of the landowner must be due to physical conditions that are unique to the land. As I stated, there are quite a few natural areas on the site that constrain the buildable area. And then once that additional right-of-way came out, the amount of area that was buildable was quite constrained and quite small in terms of making sure that all of the improvements could get in there. So this is certainly unique because it's on the corner. It's also unique because of the wetland configuration and the after the fact nature of the additional right-of-way being requested by the county. So from that perspective, there's no other lot within the subdivision that would meet this condition. All of the other lots should be buildable as they were platted without requiring any special variances, which was checked as we went through that whole preliminary and final plat process. Number 3, the conditions cannot be caused by the owner. Again, in this case, it was an after the fact request for that right of way. Obviously, the wetlands that exist in the White Oak Savannah out there certainly were not created by the property owners. So from that perspective, they are certainly unique and they were not created by the developer in this particular case. In terms of essential character, the piece of this that's important to note is obviously when we look at subdivisions, especially when we've got these large lot master planned sort of subdivisions, making sure that the homes are of similar size, scale, compatibility, et cetera, is important to the overall sustainability of the neighborhood. This particular case, being able to develop a reasonable structure, single-family structure that's compatible with the remainder of the neighborhood is important, especially in some of our newer subdivisions, to make sure that we've got compatible development throughout the project. While economic considerations are certainly at play here, they're not the only reason. Obviously, as we discussed, this after-the-fact nature of the request really constrained the buildable area. So it was an impact that had the effect essentially of altering how a house could be physically sited on the property and still comply with all the required setbacks. The city engineer does not have any additional comments. That is part of why he is not here this evening. They, as I mentioned, will still be required to follow all the requirements of the development agreement. So from that perspective, the grading plan, compliance with all of the watershed district permits, et cetera, those all remain applicable even if the variance is granted this evening. So from that perspective, there's no other agency review that's necessary at this time. Because whatever home comes forward will still need to follow all of those conditions and requirements that were put in place during the final plat process. So in your packets this evening and also in your resolution, there are some draft findings with respect to the recommendation from staff this evening. Staff's recommendation is to recommend approval with the conditions that are also noted within your packet. So from that perspective, I will not go through each of these findings. Essentially, we have to identify and document our analysis as it relates to those practical difficulties, and then a couple conditions that were identified with respect to ensuring that they comply with and continue to follow the terms of the development agreement. So with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I am happy to answer any questions you might have, and I will turn it back over to you.
All right, any questions of the council? We can ask questions later too after public hearing, but if the council wants to ask any questions now, we can do that now and then open up for hit.
Is there, Jennifer, question, if I may? Is there any other plots in this subdivision that this might occur again?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, no. This lot in particular was quite constrained when it was initially platted from the very beginning, and this actually was the only one that had that very constrained buildable area. It just was obviously somewhat reasonable, and then when that 25 feet came out, it made it very unreasonable. So in terms of the lot that's on the south side of the new roadway that also abuts CASA 17, there's adequate buildable area there, and so there should not be an issue.
Okay, so this is the only one in the subdivision? Okay.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a motion to open public comment.
Move to open for public comment.
I'll second.
Got a second?
Councilmember CORNETT.
Aye.
Councilmember Rock.
Aye.
Councilmember CREMONA.
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye. So would anyone like to comment? Anyone out there? Listening? What's that?
Regarding this matter or a different matter? Oh,
This hearing is for the, okay. And do we have the applicants here?
Yeah.
Okay, with,
They don't,
okay,
they aren't part of the public comment.
okay. So no public comment. Motion to,
Wait, Mr. Mayor. Also, I just want to make sure, we've got 3 people that have joined us on Zoom.
that's a good point.
And I want to make sure that they're not here for, to provide any testimony. So for those of you who are with us, if you raise your hand, we can bring you into the meeting if you have any public testimony with respect to this request for the variance. So I believe there's 3 of you right now. All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised. One last call. If you would have any testimony, it would be on the bottom of your screen. There should be a hand that you could push the button if you've got anything to say. If not, we will pass it back to the
I have
mayor.
another
I'm not
chance.
seeing anything.
Yeah.
So,
We'll pop back and check in with them after we got the people in here that want to speak. Okay. And Kim, does he need to sign that too? Yes. Matt, you know the routine, sign it.
I just have one quick question. Would this variance be necessary if that was sitting on a 10-acre lot? That's my only question.
Anyone else? Jennifer, you want to, so we only got one question, you want to answer that question?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so it's hard to answer that question because the property was platted in 2018 as part of the White Oak Savannah subdivision. And so the lot lines, the lot orientation, the lot size were all dictated by that process. So there's not an easy way to answer that because we have a specific lot, it's 7 acres. It was deemed compliant and consistent with our ordinances when it went through that process.
There's no real easy way to compare apples to oranges.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll take a motion to close public comment.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye. Now we need a motion to approve or not.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye. Next item on the agenda, City Attorney Nick Vivian, consideration of the DNR lease for Stillwater Oaks. Nick, you want to talk us through this?
You sure can, Mr. Mayor. So the city has received a request, and this actually came several months ago from the Stillwater Oaks Association requesting the city's assistance in facilitating the use regulated by the Minnesota DNR. There is one inaccuracy in my memo. I note that this relates to the Gateway Trail. It relates to the Browns Creek Trail, as you can see on the exhibit that's attached to the lease. The association requires a storm sewer pipeline to serve the homes and the development, and that storm sewer pipe needs to cross the Browns Creek trail. The DNR will allow it to happen by a lease, but the DNR will not lease directly to a private entity. It will lease directly to the city as another municipal entity, and then the city is permitted to sublease to the association. And that's precisely what the association is asking for. City staff, including myself, the planner and the engineer, have been involved in this process. We've reviewed the lease with the DNR. We have worked with Stillwater Oaks on the sublease, and effectively the sublease transfers all of the obligations of the city to the association. So the city, it doesn't bear any performance responsibilities. It certainly bears those responsibilities under the lease, but those performance responsibilities are then all passed through the sublease to the association. And again, effectively, this is a pipe that runs under the trail. And while there may be some obligations down the road in terms of clearing the pipe, no significant obligations on the part of the city or on the part of the association in the near term or likely the long term. And so what you have in front of you is the miscellaneous lease that came from the DNR on behalf of the state of Minnesota. You have the sublease and it's staff's recommendation that the council consider approval. I did receive an email from Jason Palmsby on behalf of the association. Jason may be in the audience tonight. And so if you have any questions, and if he is indeed in the audience, you can certainly direct them to him. Otherwise, Jennifer or I should be able to take any questions that the council may have on this particular item.
All right, that's it. Any questions or comments from the council? Lindsay? John?
I do. Nick, I guess when we, I understand that they can't do this themselves because of what the DNR requires. And so is this one of the few times, if not the first time, that we're doing something like this with a private company that's developing land that we are getting involved in?
Yeah, I've not seen it before. I represented the city for, call it 10 years between 2006 and 2016, and then again for the last couple of years. I've not seen it in my time. We do from time to time work with the DNR regarding the Gateway Trail and the Browns Creek Trail on different matters. I think this is the first time that I've seen a pipe needing to cross either trail. And the DNR's policy is just that they will not lease directly to a private association because it's their policy that they maintain their relationships between governmental agencies, which is why the city is involved, and that's why the request has come to the city. So it's not our choice. This is a request that has been made of the applicant. It's certainly discretionary to the council as to whether the council wants to approve it or not. But ultimately, this is a request that was applicant initiated and not city initiated.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Question. And as far as like their processes in doing this, like the DNR is okay with everything that they're doing, that they're going under the trail, using that land. It's not anything out of the norm in that regard, it's just a formality that we have to go through this process, correct?
Correct, that's exactly right. So the applicant has worked directly with the DNR. We have been involved in that process from the perspective of reviewing and negotiating the sublease and reviewing the lease agreement with the DNR. But all other communication has been directly between the applicant and the DNR. And you'll note that the DNR is required to sign off and consent to the sublease. So this does not get done without DNR approval. And the DNR is fully aware that the city will be involved and will ultimately be assigning through a sublease to the applicant.
I suspect that's a similar or very common structure that's set in place where we sublease it out, so the DNR is familiar with this process and anticipate there'll be no issues with it.
Yeah, I don't anticipate issues. The questions that have come up, I received a couple of questions from the mayor just with respect to maintenance. If in fact the pipe needs to be cleared, whose responsibility is it? Well, it's the association's responsibility. If the association doesn't do it, and it creates and there's some sort of an issue, the city still is the lessee to the lease. And similarly, the question has arisen: what happens if the association doesn't exist in the future? There's an indemnification provision in the sublease that keeps the association responsible for all of the obligations, the maintenance obligations, and all the other obligations under the terms of the lease. That being said, this development requires storm water drainage and mitigation, and so ultimately if the association isn't doing what it needs to do here, it's gonna probably have issues with its stormwater within the development itself as this property develops through and homes are built and whatnot. So the association is going to have a vested interest in making sure that its stormwater utility works. We could have some responsibility for clearing in the future if in maintenance, if in fact the association does not exist, but the likelihood of that is probably not very high given the significance of the stormwater utility and the need to keep water flowing freely through the development in the future.
One other question, I can't remember the exact date, I think it's like 2045, it expires, and then at that point, it's the obligation of the city to take on all of the maintenance and everything for it, or how does that?
Well, presumably, it will need to be renewed at that point. I don't believe there are any plans ultimately for this pipe to be removed, and I don't believe that there are any plans for the city to take this utility over on a full-time basis. So I think that the reality here is that assuming things go as planned and there are no issues, this agreement would be extended in the future to ensure that the association continues to be responsible for all the obligations to the DNR.
Thank you.
One more question, Nick, if I can. I see that, it's going under McCusick and then going into the ditch, I guess? We're okay with, I know that there's, I didn't drive it, so I don't know where it's going over there. Is there wetland there? Is there a retaining pond there? What is there in that ditch? I don't quite see what's over there. I see where it goes, but it's all good with the DNR, so it can't just be in somebody's yard.
Yeah, I don't know the specific answer to the question. I do know that Brad did an engineering review of the topography and of the flowage capacity in the area, and he didn't note any concerns regarding water flow through that ditch or through the city's ditch system.
Okay.
So I presume that the ditch has capacity for whatever would flow here. It also looks like there is a pond that this may just be an overflow pipe. If you look at the corner of Leeward Circle and 88th Street North to the east of Leeward Circle, it looks like there's a drainage pond, and so I think this is just overflow. But again, Brad reviewed it and didn't note any material issues with the proposal.
All right. If I remember correctly, and I'm just going to throw this one to you, I know that they were, as one of the requirements, because they are having an access on McCusick, they were going to pave, if I remember correctly, about 3/4 of McCusick so that they can access their subdivision. And so, doing what we're doing, the city is kind of getting involved with this through the DNR. Is there a situation where we could say, McCusick is a city street and it's probably one of the worst in the city, as far as I can tell. Can we get them to pave the entire road, possibly? As they're, saying, okay, we're doing this, can you pave the rest of the road too? If you're doing 3/4 of it?
Well, that's certainly a request that can be made. I don't know that was certainly it's not a requirement of what's been approved to date, nor do I know that there is anything in our code that would necessarily require the additional paving at this point. Certainly the city could say, well, we're willing to consider entering into the lease agreement and helping to facilitate the storm runoff and the pipe, if in fact the developer is willing to do some extra work on McCusick. That being said, developer could say, we're going to figure out a different way to deal with our stormwater. So it's certainly a request that can be made. It's not a requirement of development approval at this point. It's not particularly related to this particular request. That being said, this request is at the discretion of the council. And so ultimately, if the council is willing to consider the lease and the sublease, but only on the condition of additional paving, we can certainly have that discussion with the applicant if the council would like.
Nick, isn't the development agreement already signed? I mean, would this, I don't see how this could even happen.
Yeah, again, the development piece of it has already been discussed by the council, as has the development agreement. So this would be outside of the development agreement. This would be solely related to this particular request, that the city would participate and approve this request, but on the condition that the developer pave some additional roadway on McCusick. I have no information as to what that distance is or what that cost is, so I can't advise you as to whether that's practical or pragmatic or whether it's worth including that as a discussion point. Again, I don't know if Jason is in the room on behalf of the applicant and can perhaps speak to that particular request. But this piece of it has been outside of our conversation today.
Yep, Jason's here right now. Jason, would you like to?
Jason Palmby with Stillwater Oaks. To address your questions, within the developer's agreement, when this development was approved, we had agreed to a mill and overlay for a significant portion of McCusick. And that's laid out in the developer's agreement as it stands today. To ask for additional mill and overlay or additional contribution to that is economically, it's going to be pretty problematic because it's a pretty heavy lift right now to make that contribution. As far as the outlet of what we're proposing or what we're requesting, it isn't, the majority of our stormwater will stay on site. And this is an overflow component that is going to flow into a ditch that's currently there. I never want to use the word minimal outflow, but it will not be a significant component or significant outflow to what is there today. Because a lot of what we're doing on site, we're treating the stormwater on site and we're doing irrigation reuse, and a lot of, we're attempting to retain as much water as we possibly can on site. I hope that helps answer some questions and kind of shed some lights on things.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Ben, did you have something else? Nick, I had one thing. So, to sum it up with the sub-lease, is it fair to say that it's just basically a clean pass-through and the city does not have any liabilities, are all assumed by Stillwater Oaks?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. The city could have liability if the association doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But
So,
that we don't have any homes out there as of yet, and development is just starting. So we're probably talking about many years before that situation even comes to fruition.
although it's probably an unlikely event, Nick, what are your thoughts on adding a provision to the sublease requiring Stillwater Oaks to provide like an annual financial statement so we could get a line of sight into potential insolvency?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly add reporting requirements if you'd like. It's not going to be common for associations to keep a lot of money on hand. Particularly non-condo associations that, I don't know what the common elements here are going to require from the perspective of maintenance and upkeep. I think, the bigger thing is that we're gonna wanna make sure that they have a board that's constituted and that meets on an annual basis, and that if there's an issue, we've got somebody that we can call that serves as the contact person. So, perhaps a requirement that indicates that they have to update us on an annual basis as to who their board is and who the emergency contact is, along with their updated business filing or an updated profit and loss and balance sheet. just so that we can kind of keep tabs on the association as long as it's around.
This site also falls within the Browns Creek Watershed District. And there's some reporting mechanisms that we are required to report to them as well. Some of those are the giving contact information and emergency contact information. So replicating that with the city is not an issue at all.
Okay, and a
if need
simple
be.
financial.
Not a problem.
Could I, if I could ask you a question? So, are these people that are gonna be in this subdivision, they're only gonna go one way on McCusick? They won't go the other way to get to, you know, the,
I can't speak to
Right.
how someone's gonna drive. I mean,
right,
in my mind, Miss McCusick to Manning, that's how I would do it,
that's how I would do it too.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think where you're going with the question is what are we doing on that road? We've committed to a mill and overlay, a significant contribution,
Right.
to improving that road.
Right,
But as far as traffic patterns, I can't speak to
Yeah.
the individuals.
yeah. So that's, I mean, I know there's not, you're doing like 3/4 of it,
Yeah,
or a little more. I can't remember.
I
but
can't off the top of my head.
You know, I was looking at the length of the road and what you're doing, and it's really good, because that's a rough road.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if everybody's gonna go to Manning anyhow, then they're going to go on a nice smooth road when they get out, and then they just hit the other part. And that's why we're just talking about, when you mobilize and pave, it's a lot cheaper to do a section, all of it, as opposed to, okay, I'm doing 3/4 of it, and then you gotta mobilize again and then do another quarter. So that's why I was trying to see if we can do it now, if it's possible. Because obviously your people are gonna go that way anyhow. Probably half of them will go to Manning.
Yeah,
So I'm just
I understand.
looking forward.
I feel a little bit uncomfortable
Okay,
with, you know, having a contingency approving the lease with the proposal, so, but that being said, you have any other thoughts?
I mean, something to maybe think about just to mitigate the city risk to the extent that somewhere down the road, you know, if unfortunately the association didn't exist, I don't know if it's common at all to put some dollar amount in escrow with the city just to have that. I don't even know what would be a reasonable dollar amount though, or if that's something that's ever done. Just knowing that we've never dealt with this lease pass-through situation, at least in the city of Grant. And I don't know what other cities in this situation do. We can't be the first city to have this DNR lease
So,
sublease.
fair question. So Nick, I believe that's what the $11,000 is for? Is that correct? For escrow?
Yeah, let me look at the lease here.
Nick,
Well,
if I-
Jason, yeah, I mean.
If I
guess-
may, that is a lease payment to the DNR.
Yeah, it goes
Okay,
somewhere.
so it doesn't, it's not
To
an
us.
escrow, okay.
But as far as maintenance, as far as, we have, there's stormwater pipes throughout the development. And part of our process is, through the homeowners association, is making sure those pipes are clear. And with the
Okay.
Browns Creek Watershed District, we have, what's the word I'm looking for? We have worksheets that we have to submit to them on a biannual basis in the spring and the fall to demonstrate what it looks like with images, everything, and this would be part of that as well.
Okay,
So, even though the lease is with you, they want to know what's going on
Right.
across the board. So it's you know, so.
okay.
Yeah, it's not unlike a community that has developments where you have outlots that are owned by associations, and the associations then don't function. And they don't cut their grass, or they don't deal with their storm ponds, and then cities are required to jump in and do basic maintenance, to take care of those items. I think as Jason points out, you know, this is really an outflow of a pond, for overflow purposes. There are other, storm ponds within the development that they're going to have to maintain. Now, if the association is not viable, there are going to be a whole lot of issues with Browns Creek, with the city, with the DNR, and it becomes a big issue association-wide or development-wide that the association's gonna have to fix. It's not the city that's going to have to resolve their issues if the association fails to maintain their ponds and their pipes. This pipe appears to be one small part of a larger sort of network of ponds and pipes that are going to have to be maintained on a regular basis. So I think Jeff did ask a question a few days ago about an escrow. I think from our perspective, even if we required a $10,000 escrow or whatever it might be, then we hold that account or hold those funds in an account and they sit there and they could sit there for 20, 30 years or in perpetuity. And the question is whether the city wants to do that or require that. Councilmember Cremona is exactly correct that when there are performance obligations under a development agreement, it's not uncommon to hold funds in escrow, either cash or a letter of credit, or some other form of security. So you could certainly require a form of security if you want. You know, the question is what number would be sufficient to address maintenance if in fact the city had to jump in and keep the pipe clear, keep the grasses down so that the storm pipe functioned properly.
Any other questions? So, Lindsay, if that's something you want to include in a motion, other than that, I think we've got the additional provision of a financial statement and then a simple declaration of the board meeting, or I forgot how you worded it, as potential provisions we could add to the
Yeah, I think the three things that we would want to require from a reporting perspective on an annual basis are emergency contact information, board information, and then a basic set of financials on an annual basis.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
Do we
Or more
look at Lindsay? had
Well,
mentioned?
we can
yeah,
still
I mean-
discuss it. I mean, if Lindsay wants to
I
make a
mean-
motion, I mean, she could add that provision in
Yeah,
there.
friendly
yeah.
addition. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I just don't know what a number we'd be comfortable with. That's, where I'd like to get some more insight of, what would be a fair number without, go ahead.
If I can make a suggestion, maybe have Brad and my engineer have a discussion on it. And I can say right off the top of my head, it's a very nominal amount, but between the two of them, I think they can figure something out that would work, that I'd be comfortable with.
So, go ahead, Kim.
Mr. Mayor, council members, in addition to the motion, whether it's to approve, deny, add these other two conditions, you could add a third condition, an escrow be supplied by the city to the city to be determined by the city engineer.
I like that.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Gives us a little flexibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So I'd like to do an amendment to approve, but contingent upon having those, first, the financial information, information relative to the contact information of the board, as well as emergency, as well as adding an escrow, which dollar amount would be determined between the city engineer.
okay, so we didn't have a motion, she didn't have to amend it, so you're
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
make that
I just
motion.
made the motion.
You
There's
make
no
the mo-
amendment.
Okay,
Yes.
she's making the motion.
Just making it.
Do we have a
cleaned out.
second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rugg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye. All right, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. New business. Consideration of ordinance 2025-83, the 2025 fee schedule. We should have all had a chance to look at that. We bumped up some fees that haven't been changed in years, but I think compared to comparable cities, I'd say we're still on the low side, definitely competitive. Kim, is there anything you'd like to highlight in regards to any differences of our 2024 to 2025 fee schedule?
Mayor and council members, what I did, like I said, I included, the 2024, so you could see the proposed changes to the draft 2025. And typically every year, staff goes through this at a staff meeting and talks about each of the escrows and fees and, determines and suggests that, some stay the same or some be increased. I know these fees haven't been increased in years and years and years, and everything has gone up. The actual escrows themselves did not go up too much because we are rarely in a situation where the billing is more than the escrow. So typically there is a refund of the escrow. But the other fees, did go up about $100, so. And then I just took off the false alarm fees because I have never received a fee or provided a bill to somebody for false alarms. So just wanted to clean it up a little bit.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions or comments, concerns from the council? Ben, you good? John?
I was gonna say, Kim, when you came up with your numbers, did you, is it a percentage did you use, or just a change? Just so that everybody knows how the numbers, the increases came from?
Well, what we did was like the application fee for a minor subdivision, which for 18 years has been $400. We jumped that to $500. It was a nominal fee.
Sorry, Kim, to interrupt. We discussed this, right? Or am I misremembering?
Staff meeting, yes.
Okay.
This was discussed with staff.
Staff, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Confused staff with council, sorry.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, everything has gone up.
Yep. And it hasn't gone up in a very long time.
Yeah, and the city of Grant has always had the kind of approach with applicants that people that want to do things with their property, they need to pay for it, not all of the taxpayers. And that's why the city has consultants.
All right, thanks, Kim.
Everyone okay with the 2025?
I am.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rod,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye. Next on the agenda is consideration of resolution 2025-02, a summary publication of the ordinance we just passed. Do I have a motion for that?
I will make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rod,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye. Next on the agenda, consideration of 2025 City Council meeting schedule. I think most of us provided input on this previously, but we have a new council member, Lindsay. Lindsay, how does that schedule look to you? Do you have any changes you'd like to make, or are you good?
I think I'm good. They all look good.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I move
right.
to approve the 2025 City of Grant meeting calendar.
A second.
I will second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rod,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye.
I will just note, Mayor and council members, and for those that are watching, the city council meetings are subject to change at any time, and certainly have additions, work sessions scheduled. It's not a requirement that the city even adopts this calendar, but I just bring it before you so everyone's kind of in agreement. You can get your calendar set, and then I do post it on the website.
All right, next on the agenda is the 2025 appointment list. It looks like most of those are carried over from previous. There's a couple open items. I think we could discuss those first. The first open item is deputy mayor, and I think Mr. Rogg would be a good choice for deputy mayor. He has, 8 years of service now, including the planning commission?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so,
We started in, was it 14 we started?
how long has it been?
I'm thinking you've had 10 years, because you were on the PC for 2 years.
10 years, okay. Well, and I know some of those years in the planning commission, you were the planning chair, so you had good experience leading meetings. I think you would be comfortable with that. I don't know if the rest of the council feels the same, or if they would like to have themselves considered, or other thoughts.
I think John makes a lot of sense. He's been here, he's got experience, he has background and wealth of information. I think it'd be helpful as a deputy mayor.
Good with me.
Okay. All right, and then the next open one was investment advisor. I'll jump in to start this one. So, I appreciate having a choice, Kim, so I appreciate that you put a couple, different alternatives before us. And, I call both Focus Financial and Ehlers, and I've known Dylan Akins from, Focus for several years, and I know him, he would be a really good, give us good service. That being said, when I had my conversation with Jim from Ehlers, I also had the impression that he would give good service too, and they, neither one of them had any hidden fees, any trade fees or transaction fees or charges for audit or anything like that. And so, and then also they both offer a single point of contact, which kind of relates to the service aspect. And so for me, the only real distinguishing factor was the money, who was cheaper. And according to my math, with Ehlers' 25% annual fee, assuming our 1.6-ish million under management, Kim, is that accurate or close to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1.6. It would work out to $4,000 fee for Ehlers versus $11,200 for Focus Financial. So I'm kind of leaning towards Ehlers, but I'd like to know what the other council members think. If you had a chance to talk to them or any.
I didn't. I read about them. They seem as though they offer similar services, and I think the city would do well with either, but fees are fees. And so I think when you're looking to spend the city's money, and they seem like they're both going to do a good job managing our money, we probably should go with the less costly place.
And so Ben, I know you're good with the numbers. You're gonna fact check. Did I get that right?
You're good, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Checking.
I'm not pulling out a calculator.
Okay. Do you have any other questions or comments on
No,
the open position for?
I agree completely with John, especially after going through last year's budget, this run that we did. Things are expensive, so we gotta save money where we can. And I know that this was one place where we didn't have to spend money in the past, if I heard right. It was just always kind of a person, so I think going with the cheaper option is wise in this.
And it seems as though it's only gonna be $1,000 a year more, basically, considering what we paid before.
Oh, from previous, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was,
Right.
which was unbelievably, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong. A gentleman that retired was doing it for unreasonably cheap, for like $3,000 a year,
Yeah.
so,
Right, so now we're at 4, so
yeah.
it's not like it's
And-
a
and-
huge increase.
And when I talked to Dylan, he said, yeah, that's, that he's kind of said, basically go with Ehlers because of the fee structure. So,
Yeah.
Lindsay, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I was able to speak with Dylan. He seemed like a really nice guy. They're a smaller company, so I suspect that's probably why their fees are higher.
Yeah.
They're just a smaller operation. They just don't have the ability to be as cheap as a bigger operation's able to be. That said, money is tight. I was here at the meeting when you guys discussed the budget, and so, yeah, I think it would be a really hard jump for the city to go from 3,000 to 11,000 in 1 year. That would be tough for us to have to stomach that. So knowing that, I would say we have to go with the cheaper option.
Okay, and so there's also, are there any other appointments that the council members would like to discuss?
For the investment,
Well, I think, I think we're all aligned,
Oh,
if I'm
sorry.
correct, on Ehlers, so,
Yeah.
right. So we can pencil that in. And then looking through the other list of appointments, is there any other appointments that the council members wish to discuss? Jump in.
Don't we need to appoint a new fire marshal, or do we not?
Oh, we got one listed, but if you have someone that you wanna,
Oh,
um,
not necessarily.
Mr. Mayor and council
Go
members,
ahead.
there are two listed. The city's really only required
Well,
to have
we-
one.
Oh, okay.
we can change that if you want.
If anyone's interested in fire marshal, please stand up, but
Okay. So we have the blanks filled in. I think we just need a motion to accept the 2025 appointment list.
we also have the cable commissioner highlighted, though.
Oh, cable commissioner. Yeah, Kim, so that's listed as me for volunteer appointments. Can you explain that a little bit, what's traditionally done there?
Mr. Mayor
For
and
the-
council members, that was added, I added that in the draft, the proposed. Typically, it's always been the mayor. There is an alternate, which happens to be me, and I've never gone. Yeah, typically it's been the mayor, and Mayor GIEFER said that he was willing to be the cable commissioner for the city.
I guess what does the cable commissioner do?
I don't really know yet, because I haven't really
They
been.
go to meetings of the
Meetings,
cable
yeah.
commission.
Okay,
Yeah,
And apparently, I've heard that they receive free cable for their services, which if it's the case, I don't need that, so I have my own cable, but, so I would turn that down. Good question. Any other? Ben? John? So we need a motion then for the appointment list?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the appointment list as, well, with the fill-ins that we just did, but as edited.
Okay, we got a motion. We need a second. We have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
aye.
Mayor Kiefer.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda is the consideration of the December 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting minutes, which is normally in the consent agenda, but it was moved to the regular agenda because Lindsay will need to abstain. She was not here. So do I have a motion to accept the December 3rd meeting minutes?
I will make the motion.
And I guess I'll second.
Oh, I'm not twisting your arm here, but.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Abstain, but I was at the meeting, just not on council.
you just
Oh,
can't vote on it. Mayor
Duly
Kiefer.
noted, duly noted.
Mayor Kiefer.
Oh, aye. And next on the agenda is the consideration of Resolution 2025-03, declare the council vacancy. Obviously, since I vacated my council position to have the mayor's position, we need to declare that vacant.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I will just add that we've had appointments to vacant seats, I would say a handful of times in the past 18 years. And typically what's done is you do have to declare vacancy officially with a resolution. And then on your next agenda, February, you will have a resolution to appoint someone. And it is my recommendation that each of you think of somebody that you may want to appoint, and that would be done at the next meeting. I will also note the city does not have to appoint.
Okay, so that would work, we just have 4 people for 2 years?
Yeah, and if you have a tie, that could be problematic, but you do not necessarily have to appoint.
Okay.
So, if I may, can I ask Kim? Kim, do we, or could we put it out to the citizens, like a publication that says that we're looking for people that may be interested and, doing, like we did with the planning commission, people come in, you interview them, ask some questions, things like that? Can we do that or no?
Well, you certainly can. I will just note that the powers that be in years past, typically, that was, they perceive that as advertising for a job. And people applying to be an official council member did not look good. They did not want to do that. They wanted each council person to think of someone that they would like to have on the council. And then they would kind of argue that out at the council meeting where you do appoint. There have never been interviews held for something like this. There's never been anything advertised for a vacancy.
So that being said, I would encourage anyone that's listening, anyone that's here, to reach out to the council members. And Lauren, you already, stated, so, which is good. And anyone else, though, that, you might know yourself or someone else, reach out to us, let us know your interest. I'm sure we can ask good questions and take that information back and have a good discussion next month when we appoint.
I mean, I think it'd be important that we put something on our website, so that way people would know it's open and say, if you're interested, please reach out to, the council members, just because I think a big, if we only talk to people we know, you stay in your own little bubble, and then you don't actually reach out to everybody. And so I think it'd be really important for us to kind of get out to people that maybe the four of us don't know, or no enough in this room don't even know, who would be a great council member. And so I think putting it on our website and letting them know there's an open vacancy seat, here's the resolution. If you're interested, please reach out. That way we have a broader grasp of our citizens and hopefully get some really great people who are interested.
Mr. Mayor and council members, certainly a notice can be put on the website. And it's a really good idea because it's going to be in bold letters. Contact your council people directly. Do not contact the city. I don't make these decisions. And all your emails and phone numbers, contact info are on the city website. So that is a good idea.
That's a great idea, and that's something you can do basically yourself quickly with, okay. You got the skills.
I do.
Okay.
That's a good way.
All right. So we need to have a motion for the declare the vacancy, and then we have the instructions from Kim with the input from Lindsay and how to proceed with getting the folks interested.
And just procedurally, we do not need a motion to put a notice on the website.
Oh.
It would just be declaring your vacancy.
Just for, so, yep, so can I get a motion to declare the vacancy?
Move to declare vacancy to approve resolution 2025-03?
No second.
Councilmember Cornett?
Aye.
Councilmember Rod?
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona?
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER?
Aye. We have no unfinished business that I'm aware of. Discussion items, staff updates. Do we have any staff updates, Kim?
I do not at this time.
City council reports, future agenda items. Any future agenda items
I
we
think,
need to discuss?
and I'm new, so sorry if I speak out of school, but I think as we're, in the process of looking at new, person to sit in this seat, also talking about the possibility of reviving the planning commission at some point, because if we get a lot of interest, and maybe they're not the person to sit here, but they'd be great on the planning commission, so, how we get out on the agenda in the future, but just want to put that out there.
So, is that something like you envision a work session to discuss how that would work with the city council, or just, I don't know, Kim, what are your thoughts on Lindy's suggestion here? in terms
Well,
of-
my thought is, as Councilmember Cremona said, at some point in the future. I don't think at this point that discussion needs to be held. It certainly can at
So-
a future council meeting.
Okay, so are you okay with that, just kind of getting our feet under us and then,
Yeah, I think it's
Any tackle in
important to us kind of
Yeah.
say, as people are coming in saying that they're hopefully getting a lot of interest, that people are really interested in, having a role up here, and then to the extent that we can't, obviously not everyone can sit here, saying we still really want your involvement, we really want people's to be part of this community and making decisions as a team, and so saying, you might be well suited for the planning commission. So just kind of putting that pin in it to talk about in the future.
No, I've heard myself too, as well, that, for whatever reason, the interest, a couple years ago with getting folks to serve in the planning commission, it really wasn't there, but I have heard quite a few people that indicate interest in the planning commission, so I think that's a good idea. And Ben, you might have heard the same, I don't know, John, if you've heard.
I just think it's a great idea
Yeah,
to
okay.
get it going, you know, maybe we'll see how the, putting it on the website for the, you
Yeah.
know, city council position goes. And then, maybe a few months later, we'll do the same thing for the planning commission. It's a great idea. And we'll probably interview like at 6 or something before the meetings, so,
Here's hoping.
yeah, I agree, no, good.
Okay, so that takes us to the community calendar. This is the most contentious agenda item, really. At least it was not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
I want to leave this, I don't want to, pick favorites here. So whoever wants to read it can read it. Whoever's first to raise their hand.
I'll read it so we can adjourn.
Okay.
All right. Matamidi Public School Board meeting Thursday, January 9th and January 23rd, Matamidi District Education Center, 7 p.m. Stillwater Public School Board meeting Thursday, January 9th, Stillwater City Hall, 7 p.m. Washington County Commissioners meeting Tuesdays, Government Center, 9 a.m. Martin Luther King Day, Monday, Jan 20, 2025. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a second.
Councilmember Cornett,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona,
Aye.
Mayor GIEFER.
Aye.
We're done.
Adjourned.
We did it.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today.